My number one tip is to buy some time. And in order to do that, you need an assistant or an office manager, or step it all the way up to a COO/integrator.
Mike Morse, thank you so much for taking the time to come back on the Laws Business Mastermind Show. I am super excited to be diving into your brain as it pertains to the key needle movers that allowed you to build a market dominating firm. Now, I've already prefaced everyone at the beginning of the show that you and I had a call before this. And I told everyone that I asked you, I want to teach things that haven't been taught before, because you speak all over the United States with your book Fireproof, and people are just trying to learn, how did you do it? How did you build the biggest PI firm in Michigan? And I wanted to dive into some of these areas that we discussed. Like, for example, we talked about the money mentality. Like, how do you actually transition to getting a lot of money in your operating account? And you immediately started talking about the hidden profit multipliers, as you called them, the low-hanging fruit. So first of all, introduce yourself to everyone who doesn't know you, and then let's talk about those profit multipliers that can just immediately increase your cash.
When it comes to digital and lead gen, I mean, I could spend 30 hours on it, as can you, but I hire Bill and I give him a budget and he makes my phones ring, and then we don't talk about it anymore. I have a team of people who deals with that. And so I set my budgets, whether it be for billboards, TV, digital, whatever it is, and I forget about it. The low-hanging fruit is, I mean, there's a lot of them. Now, it's not going to bring in, the way you're making it sound like it's going to bring an immediate cash flow into the building. And, that's obviously, it's a little bit harder than that. But if I had extra money in my bank account, and I was just starting off with 2 people, 10 people, I had 20 people when I had this realization. I realized that I couldn't do any more. Okay. I realized that I was handling a couple hundred cases. I was hiring everybody, firing everybody, setting up the office, finding our space, finding the cases, trying every case, doing all the writing the checks, etc. Okay. And I'm sure there's 200 people on here who are doing too much. Okay. And we call it hitting the ceiling, right? You can't break through. You can't do any more. You're inside. You can't scale. You can't grow. You can't become as profitable as you want. You can't help as many people as you want, right? So the first major thing, if somebody came to me and say, Michael, I can't do anymore. I have a couple $100,000 in the bank. I don't know what to do with it. Where would you put that money? Would you give it to Bill and buy leads? Would you do this? Would you do that? Okay. Forgetting the lead generation for a moment, because you need the phones to ring. Okay. So that we're lawyers, we need cases. That's a given. My number one tip is to buy some time. And in order to do that, you need an assistant or an office manager, or step it all the way up to a COO/integrator, is what we call it in the Fireproof book, and the EOS systems that I'm sure a lot of you know about. So number one tip for busy lawyers, because the people who are in the chat saying I only do 1% or 5% or 10%, my gut is, without talking to them, is that they're too busy. Right. And I was there for 15 years. I know what that feels like, to want to do things and not be able to. And I'm going to share a quick story, Bill, from my first session with Gino Wickman. And it's in the book, so forgive me if you've read the book, but he said, Michael, I'll see you on your first appointment, Thursday, 9 a.m. Bring your leadership team, click. And I said, I don't have a leadership team. What is a leadership team? I'm just a lawyer. Well, I had a secretary. I had a lawyer who'd been with me a few years, and I had a really good paralegal. I said, come on, guys, we're going to meet with our coach. And the coach says, Michael, tell your story. And I told them what my day in my life is like. And I was dying. I mean, I couldn't do any more. I wanted to do more. I was working 15-hour days. I was hungry. I wanted to help as many people as I could. It didn't matter how much money I had in the bank. I was making great money, fine money. I had money in the bank. And people around my table said, you know what, Michael, you've never been this vulnerable. You've never shared your story. My head secretary, Lori, my secretary, Lori said, Michael, I'll take all of the secretaries, the 4 or 5 that we had, they'll come to me from now on with questions. And my paralegal raised her hand and said, Michael, how about all the paralegals come to me with questions and don't come to you anymore? And my head lawyer, Mark, by the way, these people are still with me. Lori just retired, 20 years, 19 years they've been with me. Mark said, Michael, all the lawyers in the firm will come to me. And I'll tell you, I didn't cry, but I felt emotional. I got to my office the next day, Friday. I had 50% less work on my plate. Okay. So imagine sitting here right now with 50% less work on your plate. What would you do with that time? Now, if you're visionaries or you're integrators, it doesn't matter on this call today. That time you will set goals for the year. You will set your to-do list. You will start beginning on all of these lists that you've been creating for all this time, and you're not going to believe what happens. You'll have time to really interview people and really put those ads out and really understand digital marketing and really understand the hiring process and the onboarding process and the 100 things that we all do as lawyers to run a really, really good business. And you will be able to grow. And what happens, so in that first meeting, I had 3 direct reports. A couple of years went by, I had a fire in my building, I had to rebuild my building, and I was still running a 10, 15, $20 million law firm. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do both. So that's when I said, and Gino said to me, you need your COO, you need your integrator. So yes, I had my team, but I needed somebody to be the boss of that team, and I was the boss of that person. So it's me as the visionary, the big thinker, the millions of ideas, the great relationships with the clients and everybody else. Under me was the COO or integrator, and under him are all my department heads. Now, I set this up 15 years ago. I had 20 some odd people, and it's the same exact structure with 170 people. I have 1 direct report. I can think and brainstorm and do whatever I want all day. And once I freed myself up with this magic thing called time, everything took off for me. And now we wrote the book and we're coaching 23 law firms right now. And I'll tell you, we are teaching this concept to all 23 law firms, and we walk in, they're not set up this way. And I can tell you over the last year and a half, the same growth is happening for these 23 law firms. So it's not just for me. Bill espouses to these same feelings. He's seen it in all of his coaching clients and the people that he says get assistance, get help. This is not made up. And this integrator visionary relationship has been around for hundreds of years. Okay. You've heard of Ray Kroc, who started McDonald's. Well, he had a guy named Fred Turner who helped him. Walt Disney had his brother Roy Disney, who did it for him. Henry Ford, who invented the car, had James Cousins, who actually got the work done. Us visionaries have a special skill, and the integrators have a really as equally as important skill. And in my belief, you can't do both well. My belief, you will stay kind of where you are if you try to handle both roles and be a lawyer and be your own CMO and be your own HR person. You can't do it all. So you need to slowly start finding help. And when I said start with a good office manager, that's what I did. Okay, I didn't jump to a 6-figure major MBA type personality. I started small, and then as it allowed me to make more and more money, I could upgrade that position to a MBA or a lawyer or somebody with that skill set that I didn't have. And lots of books like Traction and Fireproof and others talk about what it should be. Rocket Fuel is a great book that Gino wrote, that John and I are actually featured in a couple of different times that talk about this difference. If this is intriguing to you, integrator visionary relationship, there's a lot of reading on it, like Bill and Annie alluded to. And the key is you read it. Does it resonate? If it does, go out there and hire your number 2, or maybe you're the number 2 and hire your number 1. And I promise you, you will then have time to do all of the things I took on the list, the onboarding, the hiring, writing your processes, the figuring out lead generation, all these things that people are saying that they can't get to, it's because they don't have the time. And that's a playbook, my playbook on how to get yourself some time.